I knew something was off when the new VP walked in and didn't shake my hand, just did that limp two-finger wave like I was the janitor at a chain dentist office and not the guy who'd kept our last compliance audit cleaner than a monastery. She introduced herself with that smug little grin some MBAs wear like expensive cologne, all fresh out of Stanford and thinking they're God's gift to Silicon Valley. My name is Chuck Pearson, I'm 45 years old, and I watched her make the rounds, shaking hands with junior engineers who still had energy drink stains on their keyboards while I stood 5 feet away holding the meeting brief she was too important to read. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Back when the company was just 4 guys in a co-working space and a dream so half-baked it still had eggshells in it, I was hired to help with systems architecture for automotive IoT sensors. That meant designing back-end infrastructure for vehicle communication systems, sure, but also catching the 3 typos in the investor pitch deck before it went to Sand Hill Road, drafting the first technical specifications on the back of a pizza receipt, and later being the poor soul who translated engineer rambling into patent filings that wouldn't make a USPTO clerk swallow his stapler. I never asked for credit, never needed it. You don't sign up to be the face of the company when you're the one building its backbone. But somewhere along the way, my name started popping up on filings for our sensor calibration algorithms and thermal management systems. Not because I begged, because legal said it was cleaner that way. Easier to avoid IP disputes when the architect had a paper trail. And I was fine with that. I didn't need a gold star, just a quiet corner and working Wi-Fi. I like being invisible. There's power in being underestimated. Hell, if you've made it this far into my little therapy session disguised as a confession, maybe do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. I know, we're all just scrolling through life, half asleep, but it really helps keep stories like mine alive. And trust me, this one gets weird. Anyway, things were smooth at first. I knew who needed what before they asked. I played translator between product and legal, between marketing and dev, between vision and execution. The founder, Patricia Caldwell, used to joke I was the company's nervous system, which is a nice way of saying I knew where the bodies were buried and how to keep the smell contained. Our automotive sensor technology was solid. We specialized in thermal management for electric vehicle battery systems and proximity sensors for autonomous parking. The kind of hardware that doesn't make headlines but keeps cars from catching fire or crashing into garage doors. Boring, profitable, essential. And then came whispers of an acquisition. A big automotive tech company sniffing around. 450 million with an M. People started polishing their LinkedIn profiles, trading sneakers for dress shoes, and acting like every Zoom call was a job interview. I stayed quiet. I'd seen windfalls fall apart faster than a 3-legged IKEA table. Still, there was a buzz, excitement, possibility. That's when Ms. MBA showed up with her blazers so sharp you could use them as cutting boards and a voice that always sounded like she was auditioning for a TED Talk nobody asked for. "We need to streamline," Madison Pierce said at the first all-hands meeting. "Cut redundancy, create leaner operational verticals." Translation: I don't understand what most of you do, so some of you are going to disappear. She had that look of someone who'd learned business from PowerPoint slides and thought innovation meant firing people over 40. Fresh out of Stanford's MBA program with exactly zero understanding of how automotive sensors actually worked, but plenty of opinions about operational efficiency. A week later, my name was removed from 3 Slack channels and 2 project dashboards I had built. My calendar went from back-to-back meetings to one-on-ones with HR about transitioning responsibilities. I didn't get fired. No, that would have triggered legal reviews, but I was gently shoved into a corner like Christmas decorations in June. My new title: Administrative Support. No team, no access, no voice, just a desk under the flickering fluorescent light near the printer that smells like burnt coffee. No one said a word. Not legal, not ops, not even Patricia, who used to send me late-night emails asking if a thermal regulation clause looked too risky for the automotive compliance standards. They all went silent like my usefulness had expired the moment I hit 45 and started wearing reading glasses. Like my 20 years in automotive engineering and 6 years building this company's IP portfolio from scratch meant nothing compared to Madison's fresh MBA and her brother's connections. I didn't cry, I didn't rage, I just watched them stumble through system architectures I used to redesign in my sleep. Watched them forget how to submit a patent application for sensor integration protocols. Watched them assign 3 junior staffers to do what I used to handle between lunch and my afternoon coffee. It's funny how fast people forget the foundation once the building looks finished. I spent my days quietly sorting old files, answering the occasional call, and training the bright-eyed 24-year-old who now had my old responsibilities and a badge that still said product ops even though he couldn't spell proprietary without Google. Austin Pierce, Madison's little brother, fresh out of college with a computer science degree and zero understanding of automotive industry regulations. Nice kid, eager to learn, but about as qualified to handle our sensor IP portfolio as a golden retriever is to perform brain surgery. And through it all, I waited. I listened. I archived. Because the thing about being invisible is they forget you're still in the room. And I never stopped paying attention to every patent filing, every compliance update, every technical specification that crossed my desk. Madison announced the strategic realignment like it was a TED Talk and not a corporate mugging in broad daylight. Big smiles, buzzwords bouncing off the conference room glass like flies trying to escape. "We're trimming the fat," she said, laser pointer in hand, pacing like someone who just finished reading one book about Steve Jobs and thought she was ready to gut a company. No mention of names, of course, just charts and acronyms and that god-awful PowerPoint template with diagonal lines that screamed, "I paid someone on Fiverr to pretend this was visionary." She kept talking about legacy inefficiencies and operational dead weight while I sat in the back row, invisible as wallpaper. By the end of the week, 3 teams were dissolved. 2 managers were moved into advisory roles, which is code for your badge still works, but nobody cares what you think. And me? I was reclassified. That's how they phrased it in the system update. No meeting, no warning, just a calendar invite titled Role Clarification, 15 minars. My title went from Operations Liaison to Administrative Support, the kind of role they don't even bother to give an acronym. I used to have back-end access to our automotive sensor IP tracker, a floating seat in dev stand-ups for thermal management protocols, and early eyes on every compliance brief that touched our vehicle integration platform. Now I couldn't even open the company wiki without a permission-denied pop-up blinking like a neon insult. I got moved, too. Out of my old desk, prime real estate by the engineering war room where we debugged sensor calibration issues, and into a cubicle that sat so close to the kitchenette I could smell everyone's failed attempts at reheating leftover Thai food. No nameplate, just a sticky note that said Chuck P., because I guess my full name was too much for the spreadsheet that determined my fate. And the worst part? Nobody said a damn word, not even Lawrence from legal, who used to panic in my office after automotive compliance reviews. Not Dylan from firmware, who once told me I was the only reason our thermal sensors hadn't caused a recall nightmare. They saw me get boxed out like a stray cat at a garden party and just looked away. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't send the petty Slack message I drafted titled, "So this is what ageism smells like." I just sat there, nodded, drank the lukewarm Keurig coffee like it was fine because I've seen this before. New blood comes in, needs to flex, needs a body count, and who better than the guy in his mid-40s who doesn't post thought leadership threads on LinkedIn and doesn't start sentences with "at Stanford, we disrupted the paradigm." Madison replaced me with her brother Austin, fresh out of a computer science program with zero automotive experience. Kid had never seen a thermal management system outside of his gaming laptop, but suddenly he was our product systems liaison. I was told to train him up, which apparently meant I had to teach him how to use the exact systems I built for tracking our sensor patents and automotive compliance requirements. I showed him how to navigate our patent database for proximity sensors and thermal regulation algorithms, where the legacy access tokens lived, how to file an exemption with the Department of Transportation without tripping compliance flags. Austin was eager, I'll give him that, asked good questions. But when I explained the thermal coefficient variations in our battery sensor arrays, his eyes glazed over like I was speaking ancient Greek. "Wow, this is more complicated than I expected," he said, scrolling through a patent filing for our EV charging proximity detection system. I smiled and said, "Yeah, it tends to be when you're the one who designed the damn algorithms." He didn't get the sarcasm. None of them do. They think automotive sensor systems grow on trees and patent filings appear fully formed out of some SaaS product they saw on Product Hunt. Meanwhile, every time someone forgot a thermal regulation clause or used the wrong compliance template in a brief, I watched from the sidelines like a ghost at my own funeral. No one asked for help, no one admitted they were drowning, but I could smell the panic in their typos. They forwarded my old files to interns. Interns, kids who still put emojis in their email signatures and had never heard of SAE automotive standards. I watched them fumble through version control like toddlers with chainsaws, breaking protocols I'd spent years building to survive Department of Transportation audits and hostile IP trolls from bigger automotive companies. And still I said nothing. Because they wanted me gone but not gone. They wanted the work without the worker, the system without the architect, the results without the relationship. I was inconvenient, too experienced to fire, too knowledgeable to ignore completely, but too old to fit their shiny new narrative. So I sat, I watched, I listened, and quietly, without anyone noticing, I started printing things, filing them, cataloging them, not in a petty way, in a precautionary way, because if you spend enough time being the invisible backbone of a company, you learn how fragile everything really is. And honey, this automotive sensor company had no idea how close it was to regulatory collapse. Every thermal management patent I'd co-authored, every proximity sensor algorithm I'd debugged, every compliance filing I'd shepherded through the bureaucratic maze of automotive safety standards. I printed it all, organized it all, filed it all away in manila folders under my desk, not for revenge, for documentation, for truth, for the day someone finally asked the right questions about who actually built the intellectual property they were about to sell for $450 million. The air changed the second the rumors hit Slack. Somebody's cousin's husband knew a recruiter at Autotech Dynamics, one of those insatiable, cash-stuffed automotive giants that buys smaller sensor companies like appetizers. Word spread like free donuts in the break room. Suddenly, every desk had a little more posture. Every engineer started combing their hair again, and LinkedIn saw more profile updates in 48 hours than it had in the past quarter. I watched it all with the same deadpan calm I'd perfected over the last year of being sidelined. You learn to sip your coffee slower, nod more, speak less. My inbox was quiet, except for one forwarded thread, an investor update that mistakenly CC'd me. Subject line, acquisition trajectory, MVP team visibility. My name wasn't there, not even in the footnotes. But you know whose was? The kid I trained to replace me? Austin Pierce? Miss, how do I file a provisional again? Now suddenly listed as a key operational contact for automotive sensor IP management. It stung, not because I needed glory, but because it confirmed what I already knew. In their minds, I'd been erased. The parts of me they still needed were being scraped off like meat from a bone. No eye contact, no thank yous, just quiet extraction, like I was a printer that still worked even after being kicked down the stairs. Madison, God bless her teeth-whitened smile, started giving speeches about optics. Said we needed to showcase innovation-forward leadership and clean up org redundancies. Translation: prune anyone over 40 and pretend the college kids wrote our thermal management algorithms. One by one, the legacy folks got gently let go or nudged into transitional roles. I wasn't fired. No, firing me would mean acknowledging my existence. I was just left out. Cut from the invite list, left off the briefings. The dashboards I helped build for tracking our automotive sensor patents were scrubbed clean of my credentials. The workflows I designed for DOT compliance got repackaged in Austin's shiny new Google Docs. I was no longer in meetings, I was setting up chairs for them. The deal was heating up. Word was Autotech Dynamics wanted to close within the quarter. The office pulsed with fake urgency, whiteboards filling up with made-up KPIs, everyone trying to look irreplaceable. Madison strutted around like a rooster with a Wall Street Journal tucked under her arm, dropping phrases like vertical synergy and IP leverage without understanding a word of it. She kept talking about our revolutionary sensor portfolio, like she had any clue what made our thermal regulation systems different from the competition. I'd sit there during her presentations, watching her mangle technical concepts I'd spent months perfecting. She'd describe our proximity sensor algorithms as AI-enhanced detection matrices when they were really just clever timing protocols I'd debugged with Dylan at 2 a.m. over too much Red Bull. I sat through it all, pencil in hand, highlighting old compliance logs. Not because anyone asked me to, but because I knew what they didn't. That the devil lives in the footnotes, and our automotive IP history was a minefield if you didn't know where the bodies were buried. Then came the official reorg chart. It hit my inbox like a slap. Austin had been promoted officially into a newly created role, Automotive Systems Liaison, A Frankenstein title stitched together from words that used to belong to me. No mention of the thermal management systems I'd architected, the proximity sensor documentation I'd maintained, the DOT compliance protocols I'd written when we were still using folding tables as desks. My name nowhere. I was listed under admin pool, logistics support, the kind of role you assign to someone who orders sandwiches and schedules bathroom repairs. I sat staring at that PDF until the letters blurred. That night, I stayed late. Austin had already left for some Stanford networking event. His screen still logged into the automotive sensor dashboard he barely understood. I sat at his desk, opened the patent audit log, and downloaded every version I'd touched in the last 6 years. Not to sabotage, to preserve. If things were going to spin out, and I could already smell the smoke, I wanted to make sure there was a record. Every thermal coefficient calculation I'd verified, every proximity sensor calibration I'd supervised, every compliance filing I'd shepherded through the maze of automotive safety regulations. Not for revenge, for survival, for accuracy. Because here's the thing nobody in that glass conference room understood. Professionalism doesn't mean silence. It means patience, precision, the slow, methodical stacking of facts like bricks in a wall. And when that wall falls, it falls hard. The morning after the org chart went live, Austin walked up to me holding a patent filing I had ghostwritten for our EV battery thermal monitoring system, the one that kept electric vehicles from turning into expensive bonfires. "Do you know what this part means?" he asked, tapping the clause about thermal coefficient variance in lithium-ion battery arrays. I didn't look up. I just kept organizing the stack of DOT compliance memos in front of me. "That's what happens when you write them," I said. Calm, measured, like I was explaining how to use the copy machine without jamming it. "Oh," he blinked. "Like, you really wrote them?" I nodded, still not looking up. Every algorithm that wasn't basic code. He left in silence. Madison tried damage control. I heard through the wall, her voice half laughing, trying to charm someone over speakerphone. "He's just admin," she said. "Probably a legacy filing issue. We'll clean it up. Just admin." Like I hadn't sat in the war room when we pivoted our sensor platform toward autonomous vehicle integration. Like I hadn't drafted the response to that DOT compliance warning that could have tanked our automotive partnerships. Like I hadn't filed 4 patents in 1 week to protect thermal management algorithms that she still didn't understand. That's when the silence stopped being passive. It became armor. I didn't storm into meetings, didn't bang fists on tables. I just straightened my back, sharpened my replies, and waited. Because I knew the org chart wasn't the end of it. It was the beginning. A door had cracked open and soon the lawyers would peek in. And then, without fanfare, it happened. A message pinged into my inbox from someone at Autotech Dynamics Legal. Formal language, stiff punctuation. They were reviewing patent holdings as part of early-stage due diligence and had come across a filing from 4 years ago that named me as co-inventor on our thermal management system for EV battery arrays. Would I be willing to verify my contribution for record-keeping? I stared at the email like it had crawled out of the screen. No one had addressed me directly in weeks. Not for anything real. Not like this. At first, I hovered over the delete key. It would have been easy, safer. No waves, just let the silence keep humming. But then I thought of Austin, how he'd once asked if co-inventor was a ceremonial title. I thought of Madison sneering about legacy documentation bloat. And I thought of that filing, the thermal coefficient monitoring system, a project that only survived because I'd sat next to Dylan from firmware for 3 weeks and explained how to prevent lithium-ion batteries from thermal runaway. So I replied, short and professional, attached the original notes, signed the verification with my full name, Charles Eugene Pearson. That should have been it. But 2 days later, the same Autotech lawyer replied again. Their tone was different now, less canned, more curious. They'd cross-referenced my signature with other filings. Seemed I was listed on quite a few. They were compiling a full ledger now, but early indications showed I was tied to several filings that directly affected core valuation algorithms and automotive safety protocols. Did I happen to know why none of this was reflected in my current title or equity package? I didn't answer immediately. Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew that question wasn't really for me. It was for whoever signed the deal. They'd opened the filing cabinet, and now the ghosts were walking. Over the next week, I watched from my desk as something shifted. The buyer's team started asking questions that made Madison frown a little harder. She stopped walking with that bounce in her step. Meetings ran longer. Legal started whispering in corners again. Lawrence from legal stopped by my cubicle and gave me a weird smile, like he knew something he wasn't sure I knew too. I kept my head down. Just a quiet guy near the copier with a badge that still worked. It was a Tuesday when the binder showed up. Thick, ugly, branded with a sticker that read Preliminary IP Ledger, Internal Review Only. I didn't see it myself, not at first, but whispers travel faster than bandwidth in a nervous office. And by noon, I'd heard from 3 different directions that something in the due diligence documents had spooked Autotech's legal team. Apparently, one of their junior counsels, some poor soul tasked with vetting our automotive sensor patents, had hit a recursion loop. The name Charles E. Pearson kept surfacing. Not once, not twice, but 24 times across filings ranging from early thermal management modules to the proximity detection algorithms we'd developed for autonomous parking systems. My name was on patents that directly touched every major product line they were valuing. That IP binder may as well have been a biography. The problem? I wasn't on any leadership chart. I wasn't listed on any equity agreement. Hell, on the org chart, I was still a floating box marked admin support. Logistics, like I ordered toner and scheduled bathroom repairs. Autotech didn't like that. Big money never does. They wanted clean lines, authority maps, ownership trails. Instead, they found a phantom with fingerprints all over the product. No contract saying I didn't own a damn thing. Madison tried damage control. I heard through the wall her voice strained, trying to explain to someone important. He's administrative staff, she said. Probably just legacy filing errors. We'll submit clarifications. But the buyer's lawyers weren't buying it. They'd done their homework. They knew the difference between administrative support and technical contribution. And my signatures were on foundational patents that made up 60% of the acquisition's valuation. By Wednesday, Patricia Caldwell herself was calling emergency meetings. Thursday, the acquisition timeline got paused pending IP verification. Friday, I got summoned upstairs. The boardroom was packed. Patricia, Madison, Austin, legal, HR, and 2 people I didn't recognize in expensive suits. Autotech's representation. No one offered me a seat, so I pulled one for myself at the head of the table. Chuck, Patricia started, voice tight. We need to understand your role in our patent portfolio. I opened my bag and pulled out a manila folder, the one I'd been quietly building for months. Patent filings, original notes, engineering approvals, compliance documentation, all with my signature, my contributions, my technical language. 24 patents, I said, calm as morning coffee. Thermal management systems, proximity detection algorithms, battery safety protocols, autonomous vehicle integration standards, all filed between 2019 and 2024, all with my name as co-inventor or primary technical contributor. Madison's face went pale. But you're administrative. I'm the guy who designed the algorithms that keep electric vehicles from catching fire, I cut in. I'm the guy who wrote the proximity detection code that prevents parking accidents. I'm the guy who shepherded every major innovation through DOT compliance. One of the Autotech lawyers leaned forward. Mr. Pearson, our preliminary analysis suggests these patents represent approximately $270 million of our proposed acquisition value. Are you claiming ownership rights? I smiled. Small-tired. I'm not claiming anything. I'm stating facts. My name's on the patents because I authored the technical specifications. Your legal team can verify that with the USPTO. The room went dead quiet. Patricia finally spoke. What do you want, Chuck? Recognition, I said. Proper title, retroactive equity compensation based on IP contribution, and a seat at this table for the remainder of negotiations. Madison opened her mouth to object, but Patricia raised a hand. Madison, you're dismissed. Austin, you too. As they filed out, Patricia turned to the Autotech lawyers. Gentlemen, it appears we need to renegotiate terms. Mr. Pearson, welcome back to the leadership team. Your new title is Chief Technology Officer, and we'll be discussing your equity package immediately. I nodded, opened the patent binder, and said, shall we begin? 6 months later, the deal closed at $420 million. My equity package, based on IP contribution and new CTO role, came to 12% of the total sale price. That's $50.4 million for the guy they tried to bury in a cubicle. Sometimes patience pays off. Sometimes documentation saves your career. Sometimes the quiet guy in the corner turns out to own the whole damn building. Thanks for listening to my story. Hit subscribe if you want to hear more tales of corporate justice, because trust me, I've got plenty more where this came from.